We often discuss parenting as if it were a monolithic force, as if mothers and fathers contribute identically to a child's development. But decades of psychological research reveal something more nuanced. The father-daughter relationship operates along distinct psychological channels, creating patterns that echo through a woman's entire life trajectory. When we examine adult women's relationship patterns, career choices, self-concept, and emotional regulation, we find fingerprints. These aren't random. They trace back to specific interaction patterns established in childhood, and the father's role in this architecture is both particular and profound. The first psychological framework we need to understand is attachment. During the first few years of life, a daughter learns what relationships feel like through repeated interactions. The father's consistent presence, or absence, calibrates her internal expectation system. When a father responds reliably to a daughter's needs, she develops what researchers call secure attachment. This isn't about perfection, it's about predictability. The child's nervous system learns, when I signal distress, someone comes. When I explore the world, I have a secure base to return to. This neurological patterning becomes her relationship template. Conversely, inconsistent availability creates ambivalent patterns. The child never quite knows if reaching out will result in comfort or dismissal. This uncertainty gets encoded at a somatic level. It becomes how she experiences relationships viscerally, not just intellectually. The critical insight from attachment research is that these patterns are self-reinforcing. A daughter who learned to expect reliable support approaches relationships with openness. One who learned to expect unpredictability approaches them with anxiety or avoidance. Both then create self-fulfilling prophecies in their adult relationships. The father functions as the daughter's first mirror for how she will be perceived outside the family system. The mother-daughter relationship is often merged. Mothers see themselves in daughters, daughters identify with mothers. The father, particularly in traditional family structures, represents the first other, the first person whose approval she seeks from outside her own gender identity. This creates a psychological phenomenon where paternal validation becomes disproportionately significant in shaping self-worth. When a father shows genuine interest in his daughter's thoughts, accomplishments, and internal world, he communicates, "You are worth paying attention to. You are interesting. Your ideas matter." The absence of this validation, or worse, active dismissal, creates a void. Adult women who grew up with emotionally distant or critical fathers often describe a pervasive sense of not being enough. They can list achievements, relationships, successes, yet underneath remains this gnawing feeling of insufficiency. That feeling isn't responding to present reality, it's responding to the absence that got encoded in childhood. Research on self-esteem development shows that paternal affirmation particularly impacts daughters' sense of competence in traditionally male-dominated domains. A father who takes his daughter's intellectual capabilities seriously, who engages her in substantive conversation, who treats her as a full person rather than a decorative object, fundamentally shifts her sense of what she's capable of. The inverse is equally powerful. Fathers who primarily comment on appearance, who dismiss academic or professional ambitions, who treat daughters as fragile or incompetent, create lasting limitations in how those daughters perceive their own capacities. The father-daughter dynamic establishes what psychologists call an internal working model for romantic relationships. This operates largely outside conscious awareness. A woman might intellectually reject her father's behavior patterns while unconsciously seeking them out in partners. If her father was emotionally unavailable, she may find herself repeatedly attracted to distant partners, not because she wants distance, but because that emotional temperature feels like love to her nervous system. It's familiar. The unfamiliar feeling of consistent emotional availability might register as boring or even threatening because it doesn't match her template. When a father sets appropriate boundaries, Respectful, firm, consistent, a daughter learns what healthy limit setting looks like. She learns that someone can care for her while also maintaining their own integrity. She learns that no doesn't mean rejection of her worth. Alternatively, fathers who are either rigidly controlling or have virtually no boundaries create confusion about autonomy and connection. The controlling father teaches his daughter that love means surrendering selfhood. The boundaryless father fails to model how two people maintain distinct identities within connection. The father also demonstrates, through his treatment of the mother and other women, what daughters should expect from male partners. If he's respectful, emotionally present, and treats women as equals, that becomes her baseline expectation. If he's dismissive, contemptuous, or treats women as subordinate, she absorbs that as normal. Fathers contribute distinctly to daughters' emotional development, particularly in learning to navigate challenging emotional states. Research shows that fathers typically engage in more physically rough play, more risk-taking activities, and more challenging interactions than mothers. This isn't just play. It's emotional training. When a father engages in rough and tumble play and helps a daughter navigate excitement, frustration, and eventual calm, he's teaching her nervous system regulation. She learns, I can get activated and come back down. I can handle intensity. Fathers who validate the full range of their daughter's emotions, including anger, frustration, and assertiveness, give permission for emotional complexity. Many women struggle with expressing anger or setting firm boundaries because those emotions were deemed unacceptable in childhood. A father who can tolerate his daughter's full emotional range teaches her that she doesn't need to suppress parts of herself to be loved. The research on emotion regulation shows that children need help developing the capacity to modulate their emotional responses. A father who neither dismisses emotions nor is overwhelmed by them provides co-regulation. His calm presence helps her learn to find her own equilibrium. Adolescence requires a daughter to establish identity separate from her family of origin. The father's response to this necessary separation significantly impacts her capacity for adult autonomy. Some fathers experience their daughter's growing independence as rejection. They become either controlling, attempting to maintain connection through restriction, or withdrawn, interpreting her need for independence as not needing him anymore. Both responses complicate the daughter's developmental task. The healthy paternal response involves what researchers call holding without clutching. The father remains emotionally available while supporting increasing autonomy. He communicates, I'm always here, and you don't always need to be here. This paradoxical message, simultaneous connection and freedom, allows daughters to develop secure independence. Women who navigate this transition successfully internalize the capacity to maintain relationships while pursuing their own direction. Those whose fathers struggled with this transition often either remain overly dependent on male approval or swing to the opposite extreme, equating independence with isolation. The father's influence on his daughter isn't deterministic. Human beings possess remarkable capacity for growth and healing throughout life. But understanding these psychological patterns helps explain why certain struggles persist despite intellectual awareness that they're irrational. The father-daughter relationship creates psychological infrastructure. It shapes the daughter's internal sense of worth, her capacity for emotional regulation, her expectations in intimate relationships, and her willingness to take up space in the world. These effects aren't static. They interact with countless other factors including culture, socioeconomic status, temperament, and life experiences. Yet the pattern recognition remains striking. When we understand the specific psychological mechanisms through which fathers influence daughters, we see both the source of many struggles and the pathway toward healing. For fathers, this knowledge offers the possibility of intentional presence. For daughters, it offers the possibility of understanding, and ultimately rewriting, the patterns that no longer serve them.